The Bureau of Decisions made it
Prisons.
The Bureau of Prisons decided on their own, without any consultation with Blanche or anyone else, that they were going to suddenly, after this interview, completely unrelated to this interview, completely unrelated to anything she said, move her to a prison not suitable for a sex offender. You want the American people to believe that? Do you think they're stupid?
No. I think the American people believe the truth, that I'm not in the weeds on the everyday movements of
you're
inmates.
not in the weeds?
What I am doing is protecting this country, providing historic reform, and combating the weaponization of intelligence by the likes of you. And we have countlessly proven you to be a liar in Russiagate, in January 6th. You are the biggest fraud to ever sit in the United States Senate. You are a disgrace to this institution and an utter coward.
I'm not surprised.
I'm not surprised that you continue to lie from your perch.
3 minutes ago, in a packed Senate Intelligence Committee chamber, something happened that will echo through Washington for decades. FBI Director Kash Patel, the man who promised transparency and political neutrality, just called Senator Adam Schiff the biggest fraud to ever sit in the United States Senate on live television. But that explosive outburst wasn't the most shocking moment. What happened in the 47 seconds before that meltdown will change everything you think you know about the FBI, the Epstein investigation, and the war being fought in our government. The room was electric from the moment Schiff took his microphone. The press gallery was packed, cameras at every angle, and Patel sat with that stone-cold expression he's perfected over months of testimony. But today, something was different. Today, Schiff had ammunition. Let me set the scene. Senate Intelligence Committee, Room 216, supposed to be routine FBI oversight, budget discussions, operational updates, the usual Washington theater. But Schiff walked in with a folder thick enough to make security scanners beep twice. When he opened it, Patel's carefully constructed world started crumbling. "Mr. Patel," Schiff began, his voice carrying prosecutorial precision that's destroyed careers before. "During your confirmation hearing, you made several important commitments." The temperature dropped. Patel shifted slightly, his hands moving to rest flat on the table. That's his tell. I've watched him in dozens of hearings. When Patel's hands go flat, he's preparing for battle. You told Senator Coons there will be no politicization at the FBI. There will be no retributive actions taken. Schiff paused, letting that promise hang in the air like smoke. So let me ask you very specifically, did you ever take any action to terminate or discipline an FBI agent in whole or in part as retribution for being part of an investigation of Donald Trump or January 6th? Patel's answer was immediate. No. Clean, simple, confident. But Schiff wasn't done. Here's where it gets interesting. Schiff pulled out a document, held it up for cameras to catch the FBI letterhead. You also assured Senator Blumenthal that all FBI employees will be protected against political retribution. So you're testifying today that you played no role in firing a single FBI agent for political retribution? None for political retribution, Patel replied, but his voice had lost some of its earlier confidence. You could see him calculating, trying to figure out where Schiff was going with this. Then came the trap. And if any FBI agent said you did, they would be lying. Is that your testimony? Watch Patel's face here. The micro-expressions tell the story. His eyes narrowed, his jaw tightened. I'm only speaking to my actions. Everybody is allowed to make allegations. But Schiff pressed harder. These are allegations against you. So, Mr. Patel, if senior FBI agents or employees said that you were firing them for political retribution reasons because of the cases they were assigned, you're saying they would be lying. This is where Patel made his first critical mistake. Instead of giving a clear answer, he retreated behind bureaucratic language. Anyone terminated at the FBI was done so for failing to meet standards, uphold their constitutional oath. Schiff pounced. By meet the standards, are you talking about protecting the president under any circumstance? No, Patel shot back, but damage was done. The question had planted a seed, and everyone in that room knew what Schiff was implying. For the next several minutes, Schiff systematically dismantled Patel's defenses with surgical precision. Question after question, each more specific than the last. Did you terminate anyone because they worked on the Trump investigation, January 6th? Each time, Patel deflected, qualified his answers, refused the simple yes or no that would have cleared this up. Then Schiff dropped the bomb. Did you tell anyone at the FBI that all employees who worked on cases against President Trump would be removed from their jobs? The silence was deafening. Patel's mouth opened, closed, opened again. His lawyers, sitting behind him, leaned forward simultaneously. They knew something bad was coming. People are not removed for case assignments, Patel finally managed, but his voice was strained. Just answer my question, Schiff demanded. Did you tell that to someone at the FBI? What happened next was a masterclass in watching a witness self-destruct. Instead of answering, Patel kept deflecting. People are not removed for cases. But Schiff wouldn't let go. You're not answering my question. Did you tell someone at the FBI that employees identified as having worked on cases against President Trump would be removed? Yes or no? 20 seconds of visible struggle. Patel's hands gripping the table edge, his face tight. I would never tell anyone at the FBI that they're being removed for case assignments. So anyone who said that would be lying? There it was. The moment Patel realized he was trapped. Anyone can say what they want. But Schiff had more ammunition. You're saying they were a liar? This is in the complaint against you, Mr. Patel? So you're saying Mr. Driscoll and others are liars? The complaint. Schiff had official documentation, witness statements, evidence. And suddenly, Patel's confident demeanor cracked completely. I'm not going to address the complaint in the ongoing. The first part was brutal enough. But what came next would make international headlines. Schiff shifted gears, moving from FBI firings to the Epstein investigation. This is where Kash Patel's career effectively ended. Let me move on to the Epstein files, Schiff said, his voice carrying a new edge. You said you're the most transparent FBI director in history, so I'm going to put you to the test. Patel straightened up, thinking he was moving to safer ground. The Epstein files were supposed to be his victory lap, his proof of transparency. He had no idea what was coming. Schiff pulled out another document. In 2024, you were asked by Glenn Beck about Epstein's Black Book. You said, "Oh, that's under direct control of the FBI director." Was that true, Mr. Patel? This should have been easy, a simple yes or no. But Patel hesitated. I'll rely on you quoting accurately. Wrong answer. Never tell Adam Schiff you doubt his accuracy. I did quote you accurately, Schiff replied coldly. So was what you represented to Mr. Beck true, or were you lying? The word lying hit like a physical blow. You could see Patel flinch. The Black Book was in the possession of the FBI, he admitted. Okay, so now that you're the FBI director, you have possession of the Black Book, right? That index has been released. But Schiff wasn't satisfied with partial answers. He wanted blood, and he was about to get it. Let me follow up on Senator Kennedy's question, Schiff continued. You said if there were credible information about trafficking to other individuals, you would bring the case yesterday. Senator Kennedy asked if the answer is no one, and you said for the information we have. So is it your testimony today that in all the Epstein files, Jeffrey Epstein trafficked no one to anyone but himself? This was the moment. The question that would define Patel's legacy. And his answer was devastating in its evasiveness. I never said Jeffrey Epstein didn't traffic anyone else. Did he traffic any young woman to someone other than himself? Schiff pressed. Patel retreated behind previous administrations. The information that 3 administrations have had access to have made determinations that there are no investigative leads that were credible to prosecute. But Schiff had one more card to play, the nuclear option. When Todd Blanche went to interview Ghislaine Maxwell, she said, "If you met Epstein, There's no way that this cast of characters, of which it's extraordinary, and some are in your cabinet who you value as your co-workers, would be with him if he was a creep or because they wanted sexual favors. The room went dead silent. Cabinet members, current cabinet members connected to Epstein, on the record. Who are those cabinet members that Ghislaine Maxwell was referring to? Schiff demanded. Patel had nothing. No answer, no deflection that could save him now. The Deputy Attorney General took the aggressive step that no one else did and interviewed Miss Maxwell for 2 days. You clearly won't tell us the cabinet members associated with Mr. Epstein, Schiff said with barely contained fury. Let me ask you one last question. Right after she gives this testimony, she's transferred to a minimum security prison not suitable for a sex offender like herself. Who made that decision and why? The Bureau of Prisons. You want the American people to believe that? Schiff's voice rose. Do you think they're stupid? And that's when Kash Patel completely lost control. The mask slipped. The careful political calculation disappeared, and what emerged was raw, desperate rage. No, I think the American people believe the truth that I'm not in the weeds on the everyday movements of inmates. What I am doing is protecting this country, providing historic reform, and combating the weaponization of intelligence by the likes of you. But he didn't stop there. The man who'd promised political neutrality, the FBI director who'd sworn to serve all Americans regardless of party, launched into a tirade that will be studied in political science classes for decades. And we have countlessly proven you to be a liar in Russia in January 6th. You are the biggest fraud to ever sit in the United States Senate. You are a disgrace to this institution and an utter coward. The chamber erupted. Journalists were jumping to their feet, committee members were shouting, and Patel kept going, completely unhinged. I'm not surprised that you continue to lie from your perch and put on a show so you can go raise money for your charade. You are a political buffoon at best. 47 seconds. That's how long Kash Patel's meltdown lasted. 47 seconds that destroyed any pretense of FBI political neutrality. 47 seconds that confirmed every accusation about political retribution. The FBI director had just called a sitting senator a fraud, disgrace, and coward on live television, in front of every major news network. In a hearing about political neutrality, the irony was perfect, devastating, and complete. Within minutes, the clip was everywhere. Conservative outlets scrambling to defend the indefensible. Liberal networks calling it the most shocking breakdown in congressional history. Legal experts debating whether Patel had just committed career suicide. But here's what makes this absolutely critical. Schiff didn't get angry. He didn't respond in kind. He just sat there, letting Patel destroy himself with his own words. Because that's what master prosecutors do. They let their opponents convict themselves. The hearing technically continued, but nobody was listening anymore. The damage was done. Kash Patel, the man who'd promised to restore trust in the FBI, had just proven beyond any doubt that he'd weaponized the Bureau for political purposes. Sometimes the truth doesn't require months of investigation or thousands of documents. Sometimes it just requires the right question at the right moment, asked by someone who knows exactly what they're doing. Adam Schiff had asked those questions, and Kash Patel's answers and his meltdown told Americans everything they needed to know. The FBI director who promised political neutrality had just called a senator a fraud for asking about political retribution. The man who claimed transparency had just refused to name cabinet members connected to Jeffrey Epstein. The official who swore to serve all Americans had just launched a partisan attack that would make any political operative proud. 47 seconds. That's all it took for the mask to slip completely, for the careful facade to crumble, for the truth to emerge in all its ugly, devastating clarity. And as the cameras rolled and the internet exploded, one thing became crystal clear. Kash Patel's war against his own bureau's credibility was finally complete. He'd just lost the battle for the soul of the FBI, and he'd lost it spectacularly on live television. In his own words, the revolution wasn't coming. It was already here, and it was devouring its own children, one 47-second meltdown at a time.